Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement. Now, just in case you haven't heard already, it was just last month on August the 12th, 2023, that's when an amateur astronomer named Hideo Nishimura, he discovered a previously undetected comet, which has since been named Nishimura. And as we consider this comet's current course, well, there are many Christians who are now wondering, is this a sign of the times which will signify the rapture of the church? Well, with this question in mind, I want to consider the current calculations of this newly discovered comet, which is traveling through space at 240,000 miles per hour. At the same time, it takes 500 years for this massive space snowball to orbit our solar system. And while it's still more than 80 million miles away from the Earth, well, it's already visible to the naked eye as it prepares to slingshot around the sun in mid-September. Now, according to one expert, the comet can currently be seen in the hour after sunset and the hour just before dawn. You just need to go out and look northeast towards the horizon, look towards the crescent moon and Venus, and you might be able to spot it. And not only that, but listen, the Nishimura comet will also be most visible an hour after sunset on September the 11th. That's right. Just an hour after sunset on 9/11, that's when Nishimura will easily be seen to the naked eye, and then again the hour just before dawn on the 12th. What's even more intriguing, though, is the path that this comet is currently taking as it prepares to slingshot around the sun. And as of today, the Nishimura comet just entered the Leo constellation as it passes through the sickle of the lion's head. And then the comet will continue on course and it'll make its way through Leo's body as it finally exits the tail of this constellation on September the 14th. By the 15th of this month, Nishimura will enter the constellation known as Virgo, or the Virgin, just as the Israelites are preparing to celebrate the Feast of Trumpets at sundown on the same day. That's right, the Nishimura comet will enter the constellation known as the Virgin as the Feast of Trumpets is beginning. And you might be interested to know that the Feast of Trumpets actually encompasses 2 days as the religious authorities of Israel wait for 2 witnesses to testify that they've seen the new moon. Now, according to the experts, the new moon will be visible on the 15th, which corresponds with that point in time when this newly discovered comet will enter the constellation of the Virgin. And then, as the Feast of Trumpets gives way to the 10 days of awe, the Nishimura comet will reach its closest point to the sun. And it's at that point in time when this comet will be visible in the western sky just after sunset. And then by the 22nd, Nishimura will exit from the stomach of Virgo. We could also put it like this. The Nishimura comet will depart from the womb of the Virgin on the 22nd of this month. And 3 days later, the Israelites will observe the Day of Atonement, otherwise known as Yom Kippur. Now listen, this cosmic event that corresponds with the Day of Atonement, it also falls on the heels of the UN's SDG Summit, which is scheduled to take place on the 18th and 19th of this month. And this will take place as the United Nations prepares to confirm their Sustainable Development Goals for the 2030 agenda. That's right. The UN is preparing to confirm a covenant which currently has a 7-year timestamp left on it. And this is all taking place as a newly discovered comet is in the womb of a constellation that represents the Virgin. And listen, all of this is happening 7 years after a similar set of signs were seen back in 2017, when a series of cosmic anomalies appeared to fulfill the prophetic signs that John described in the book of Revelation. I'm, of course, referring to Revelation chapter 12. It's there in this passage where John declares, "Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth." Now, as we consider this passage, it certainly seems like John is referring to some sort of cosmic anomaly that he calls a sign, which takes place in and around what appears to be the constellation Virgo. And it was at the end of 2016 when the planet Jupiter, also known as the King Planet, entered into the womb of this constellation Virgo. And from our perspective here on the Earth, the King Planet appeared to remain in the womb of Virgo as its path continued in retrograde mode. motion for 9.5 months. Then on September 23rd, 2017, the king planet passed from the womb of Virgo as the constellation perfectly matched up with the great sign that John recorded there in Revelation chapter 12, which includes the body of Virgo clothed with the sun and with the moon at her feet. Now listen, this specific cosmic anomaly is so rare that the Starry Night computer program couldn't find the same exact scenario in the stars for 7,000 years on either side of that event. And it was at that point in time, back in 2017, when I presented my own speculation of this sign, which had to do with the Jews from around the world returning to the land of promise. And we've certainly seen that happening en masse since then. And while I was quick to confess that this was just pure speculation, I was still convinced that the 2017 sign would be followed by the Israelites regaining more control over the city of Jerusalem, which includes Temple Mount. And listen, it was just 3 months later, that's when President Trump officially acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And within 7 months of that sign, the United States opened our new embassy right there in Jerusalem, and many nations followed suit. Then, within 3 years of that sign, Trump was able to broker the Abraham Accords, which has continued to set the stage for the third temple as they continue to declare peace and security. Well, now here we are. It's now been 7 years since the 2017 cosmic anomaly, and now we're watching this previously unknown comet currently passing through Leo as it makes its way into Virgo, and at the same time, when the UN is preparing to confirm a 7-year covenant. At the same time, there are 11 BRICS nations, or you might say 10 plus 1, that have joined together to destroy the hegemony of the West, while the great apostasy is currently taking place right before our very eyes. And as we consider everything else that's happening in the world today, well, it's no wonder that this once-in-a-lifetime event, this cosmic anomaly with this comet, has captured the attention of those who believe what the Lord said regarding the fourth day of creation. Now, just to be clear, it's Genesis chapter 1, where Moses tells us that God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years." Okay, so according to the Lord, He created the lights that we see in the heavens for both signs and for seasons. Now, I'm sure we all understand how the sun and the moon and the stars are used to identify days and years, but we must not fail to realize that the Lord also uses the lights that we see in the heavens as signs of the times. And just to be clear, the word signs was translated from a Hebrew word which speaks of a miraculous marker or some sort of supernatural signal, which serves as a reminder of a warning or an omen of things to come. And if you think that we should simply dismiss this definition as being far too, speculative or it's too far-fetched to believe, then I encourage you to consider the promise that Jesus presented when He described the days leading up to His second coming. It's actually found in Luke chapter 21. There the Lord Jesus declares, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars. And on the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear, and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Okay, so according to Jesus, there will be supernatural signs in the heavens just before His second coming. And with that being the case, we'd all do well to consider the reason for why this recently discovered comet is causing many to wonder, is this a sign of the time? And one reason why is because this comet is currently on course to pass through Virgo's womb just after the Feast of Tabernacles. And at the same time, we're watching all of these other end time events converging together, including the UN's, confirmation of a 7-year treaty. Now, listen, I'm not here to overreach my bounds. I'm not here to tell you what all of this means. I'm not here to set any dates. And yet, like I said back in 2017, I can't tell you what this is, but I know it's not nothing. I know it's not nothing. The Lord was perfectly clear when He informed us that there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. Now, I would say, be careful with those people who are trying to tell you exactly what it is. They tend to overreach their bounds and speak, from their own imaginations and whatnot. The Bible doesn't tell us specifically how to interpret these signs. But listen, the Lord has promised that there will be signs in the heavens. And he's also promised that men's hearts are going to fail them for fear and because of the expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth, for the powers of the heavens themselves will be shaken. With that being the case, it would be foolish for us to just dismiss these signs as just nothing. They're designed to get our attention, and so we should allow that to happen. We should give our attention to the Lord and to the signs that he's presenting us with. And with that, I just want to wrap it up with the words of Jesus, who declared this. He says, "Now, when these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near." In other words, the signs of the times are supposed to grab our attention so that we might set our minds on things above and not on the things here on the earth. And with this as our mindset, let's focus on the Lord. Let's get our attention back on him, and let's ask our Savior Jesus to help us to accomplish his great commission so that we can spend these last days fighting the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.